Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
What is it that trips up your office? Finding new patients, retention, teaching about holistic wellness, or is it patients who can't seem to kick poor health practices? As a business owner, a wellness practitioner, a teacher, a mentor, often an emotional support, as chiropractors, we have a lot to carry. Let Mahalo Wellness carry some of the burden. Mahalo Wellness CBD oil products are the one small change that can change both your clinic revenue and jumpstart your patients' crave to begin healthier living. Try all Mahalo has to offer to determine what is receptive in your clinic. Special pricing on 10 bottle and 20 bottle bundles. Head to mahalowellness.com/collections/TCP-podcast today.
All right, TCP listeners and viewers. So after one of those days where it's like nothing seems to be working for me tech-wise, we finally have Dr. Frazer Smith on the TCP podcast today. I want to welcome you. Thank you for being here today.
Awesome, Ed. Thanks so much for allowing me to be here today. It's a real pleasure.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'd love to start these by asking you to actually share a little bit about yourself, like who you are, and then, the leader in the profession that you are today as well. And then we're going to get into a little bit more of the information of really just, I love this discussion of really just having a blueprint for mastering your life and your business, I assume too.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, a little journey. So a little bit about myself, Ed. Heck, first of all, I'm a father. I've got two amazing kids. I got an amazing wife, so I'm a husband too. And that's the thing I'm the most proud of. Shortly after that, I am a chiropractor. Now, first and foremost, 22 years in practice, run a family-based chiropractic practice with a partner I've had for 22 years. So it's been a pretty much a thriving practice in a small town, Smiths Falls, Ontario. And we've got a great team with us. And then, in the last I've been involved in the profession in a lot of different levels. I did a lot of regulatory work. I did a lot of different speaking, a lot of different things within the profession. And more recently, I've started coaching chiropractors, but also entrepreneurs as part of Full Circle Coaching and Consulting. So that's been a role that I've played for the last 5-6 years. And, that's one of the most exciting roles I have right now, because I get to see people really grow and thrive and explore new possibilities for themselves. So that's who I am now. I've had quite an interesting journey, lots of ups and downs, as we're going to get into, and experiences which have allowed me. I've learned lots of things the hard way, Ed. That's what makes me allowed to coach, right? Because I've been through some of the hard knocks and let people know that, hey, that's reality. So that's a little bit about me. It's a short version. We'll get into some more later. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, I love this conversation too of I'm going to go off script. So how did you meet Dr. Tom? Was that through, was that some way through coaching, or did you meet as?
This is a fun story. I mean, this is history. So when I graduated, Peter Amlinger was starting something called Wonders of Chiropractic. And I used to go to Wonders, fresh out of school, really got me motivated and started out in practice, right? And Tom, of course, if you know Peter, you know Tom, because they're the kind of the dog and pony show, right?
Yeah.
And I can poke fun at both of those guys. They're going to love me for it. But the reality is, so I saw Tom forever at Pure and Powerful, all these different things. And, I got to know Peter well back in the early days of Wonders and then Pure and Powerful. But then eventually I sat on a role on the regulatory college in Ontario with Peter Amlinger. And long story short, I moved through, transitioned out of that, got back into my life as a chiropractor, wanted to be the dad that I wanted to be, not traveling as much. And my kids were really small. I started late. And so I withdrew from some of that, and I started looking around at another coach, because I'd done coaching my whole career, right? It's how you accelerate yourself and learn a lot. And so I was ready for a new coach, and, I'd always seen Tom speak, and, frankly, he always rubbed me the wrong way, right? He was lifting big weights, and he was raw, and he was, it wasn't my scene. But then a couple of chiropractic colleagues I never forget. Okay. One of my colleagues that just, down another town from me, which I loved and respect greatly, sent me an email, just said how much Tom changed her life. I know this woman, and I was just blown away, because this was not the same guy that I knew, or at least I thought I knew. And that invited me to have the conversation, right? So I called him up. Well, first of all, I heard out more about what he was doing with his coaching, and it was so different than what I'd been through doing chiropractic business coaching, right? Because it was all about business and how to grow and expand your practice, but it wasn't about necessarily me and what my goals were, what motivated me and my values. So long story short, I went looking for Tom, got on the call. I was in a stage in my life that I kind of I plateaued. So what happened is I'd done everything that I ever thought. I checked off all the boxes, right? Served my profession at a high level, spoke at all sorts of chiropractic conferences all over the place, traveled, for the profession. That wasn't so cool, actually. That was fun, but it wasn't as fun as people think. Had a great practice, have this great family, just built my dream house on the lake to raise my kids, and then I'm like, now what the hell am I going to do? Right? Like, I'm 40 and I'm like, oh shit, like, what's next? Because I'm getting a little bored here, right? I'm a little scared, actually, because I'm just, what's next? And so I called up Tom, and I just, and Tom was talking to me. I'm just saying, Tom, how much? Let's go. And so I started coaching with him. And frankly, he gave me a vision for my life back, which I didn't have at that point, right? Because it was all goal-based. And a lot of it was externally driven stuff, right? It was other people's ideas and concepts. It wasn't necessarily, driven from my internal value system. Wow. And so when I started to redesign that, the coaching was a natural. That was just a piece that I'd always been attracted to. I'd always have docs come in to shadow my office. I did a lot of mentoring as part of the early versions of the chiropractic college work that I did. I did all these peer reviews, right? So I'd go into people's offices and I'd see, oh my gosh, they need so much help, right? And so I'd end up, for some people, I'd help mentor them and work them through how they could be more successful or do something differently. And I saw how much of a role there was. And to steal your thunder, Ed, one of the things I always said is, TCP says that we're more alike than we are different. And, that's been my opinion from day one in this profession. We are so much more alike than we are different. And it doesn't matter if you're you're more left wing or right wing, principal, non-principal, whatever. We're way more alike than we are different. And I've seen that because I've been in 300 offices, right? Yeah. And so I love that when I know that about your, the podcast alone. Yeah. That's what kind of drove me into coaching.
Well, I love that too, is that, I think a lot of people, and I hear this often, especially with successful doctors, is, they get to that point in their life where the external is no longer filling, that space, that void, or maybe it never really was. And they totally have that shift. And I've heard that often, to where it's almost, it's not even, I wouldn't say mission based, but it's like soul based. It's like you're looking to actually build what's, fulfill what's really truly inside and what you need to just be a better human.
I think you nailed it. It's soul-based, right? Yeah. It's about what's going to make you feel, thrive as a human, a spiritual person living a human experience, right? Like, what's going to, at the end of the day, what's your legacy?
Yes. Yeah.
What's your legacy?
Yeah. Right? I feel like I'm exactly where you are or were at 40, where I'm there right now. So.
Well, it's interesting, right?
I got a call with Tom.
A real interesting call.
So one of the things we love to talk about too is actually quotes and affirmations, words of positivity. Do you have something that you would like, some words you want to drop on our listeners as well?
Tons, because I'm a junkie for this stuff, right? Like, I'm a junkie. And so, and let's be real, people. We get a little bit of a pretext of what the podcast is going to be like, questions. So I'm like, okay, what quote? I got too many quotes, right? So I just had to say, well, what's obvious? What do I post in front of me in my office desk every day, sits and looks at me at the face? Well, it's Marianne Williamson's famous quote. Okay. And I'll read it for people because it's a big one. And it's wrongly attributed to Nelson Mandela because he used it in his big speech that he gave in his inauguration speech, right? So it is, our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people don't feel insecure around you. We're all meant to shine as children do. And I love that part, right? I have a lot of kids in my practice. So my favorite part of my practice. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others. So I've got that posted. That's a huge quote for me. And it motivates me every day, right? When I start to think that I shouldn't be doing this, I'm an imposter. Hey, I'm even getting on a podcast here and there. Who am I to be able to do this? Who am I not able to do this? What message do I have that I can share that can help someone else out there somewhere, right? So that's my quote. I live by it. I try to emulate that every day. I mean, we all have fears, right? We all have things that we shy away from. And, Marianne Williamson, right? She's, speak with love, speak from truth, and just, walk in that source of strength and, honor yourself. You'll honor everybody around you.
Yeah. I love this quote. And it's interesting too. I thought it was a Mandela quote.
Yeah, and everybody does.
But like I'm sure a lot of people have heard it, but they've never heard it in this, maybe even in this frame. Mm-hmm. And, your greatest fear is that, we're more powerful than powerful beyond measure. Right.
Exactly.
And do you find that with a lot of people that you're coaching is that, they're holding back on executing on what their highest potential could possibly be? And is it always fear that keeps them from doing that? Or is it confidence? Or is it something?
Well, it can be both. It can be, a lot of it's fear. A lot of it is, it can be confidence. It can be certainty. It can be a belief system, right? A lot of people just have this belief system that they're supposed to stay small, right? Or we see a lot of people that are people pleasing. So they don't want to get out of that comfort zone, and a huge amount is they're not good enough. I'm not good enough to.
Who am I to?
Exactly.
Yes.
So we see a lot of that. There's a lot of variation. It depends on the person, right? Yeah. But I think a lot of us, unfortunately, live our lives because our belief system is created by all of those people and all of those things we experienced when we're really little. A lot of our beliefs are formed before we're 5 and 6 years old, right? From experiences. So that's not all, beliefs aren't necessarily true, right? But they're formed early. And I think that, a lot of people absorb things from our parents, our teachers, whoever our mentors were. And I think those things, unfortunately, can sometimes box us in and limit us and keep us small. So, yeah, it's fun. That's for me, I'm passionate about trying to figure out what's holding someone back, and sometimes it's interesting what we find, right? Because sometimes people are doing something and they're maybe the practice is blowing it up out of the, they're just huge, but they're not really doing what they love.
Yeah.
Right. So they're not giving to humanity their greatest gift, right? Yeah. Which is for them to be authentic in who they are and express themselves optimally. They might be doing a great job, great work, but it's fun when you kind of make those tweaks, how it changes everything, right? Mm-hmm. The lessons that come out. So it's a really exciting journey. It's a really neat experience.
I think life would be boring without fear.
Heck yeah. I mean, that's the balance in life, right? Fear has to challenge us.
I mean, it is. I mean, if you don't have that feeling, that butterfly feeling of just, I don't know, the uncertainty, all of those things. I mean, isn't that really what it forces us to feel like we need to push beyond those boundaries? So, anyways, we could make all these.
We could do all sorts of stuff. I mean, what I always find fascinating in human behavior is some people get extremely motivated by fear and other people shrink from it, right?
Exactly.
Some people, I mean, they've done the science, right? The studies. Some people, the stress response goes through the roof. Other people, they can actually see physiologically, they prepare, they thrive from it, right? It doesn't weaken them. They don't have the sympathetics. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's interesting stuff.
It's usually the one thing that you can observe it the most clearly is when you ask someone to speak or share something in a group. It's always like, that's the instant fear. But okay, so let's do this. I want to transition into a struggle. So a time where you experienced personally, professionally, whatever you'd like to share. Just, it's essentially like a time where you ate the, SHIT sandwich. You're like, what I learned from it.
Well, you know what? I the one that I wanted to share, and I think it's important because, and some people are going to listen to this and they know who they are right away. One of the biggest awarenesses that I had when I started to get into really thinking about coaching and doing this work was I was sitting down at a Parker seminar with a few of my classmates, good buddies of mine, and I was taking single-handedly more holidays in a year than they were collectively together. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you guys, right? Come on, this is our lives. And it blew my mind. So I reflected on, how did I get there, right? How did I get there? Because you know what, frankly, there are thousands of docs out there that don't take time off because they're afraid to. Yeah. Right? Talk about fear. They're afraid. They've got all the reasons why they can't. So what happened to me when I think I was in year four or five of practice, and I just bought my first house, right? So I'm getting this new mortgage. I used to be, a hardcore water skier, competitive skier. I had a slalom course outside this brand new house. So I move in, I got some friends, buddies hanging out. We're setting up, long weekend. Anyway, don't I go out and I water ski, have a simple fall, fracture my elbow. So I'm a chiropractor. I'm a hands-on chiropractor. Break my elbow. I have to have a couple of surgeries to put it all back together. So long story short, I'm out of practice for like 2 months. Right. So I just, I'm starting out here. I got my first mortgage. Holy crap. I never had a mortgage payment. So all these things, right. And I take a big chunk of time off. So again, like anything, fear is, I'm not going to have enough money. How am I going to pay all this stuff, right? What am I going to do? I'm going to lose my practice. It's going to shrivel. I think I had 3 or 4 different locums. They had to patch in because it was such an acute emergency, right? So long story short, I was up that year, way over. I think I was 25, 30% up over the year before, and I took pretty much 2 months off with an acute injury, right? People didn't leave. They didn't disappear. My practice grew. And that was my aha moment, right? You can take time off. You can take time off and thrive, right? So the time I had my son and he was born, I took 3 weeks off with him, maybe, and it was great. 3 weeks straight off practice, plus my regular holidays that I always did. And my practice grew again, right? It was bigger than it was before. When my daughter came, I took a month off, okay? And I know I'm saying that as a male chiropractor. It's easy for us, right? It's easy for us. But frankly, a lot of us can learn a lot from the women chiropractors out there who have to be the moms and have to, they take the time off and they come back to practice and they still make it work. Right. Mm-hmm. So many of us are afraid to take that time off. And I think that experience of breaking my arm and recognizing early days that my practice grew, it didn't shrink. So that fear of taking time off, I've never had that. In fact, I made it a really, purposefully, I made time for holidays my entire career. So I've enjoyed a great life. I've traveled, I've done stuff because I've always made sure I put myself first.
Do you think that like by scheduling that time, just like you would schedule something in your business, like having time for you to recharge, is that part of the blueprint of actually starting like growing your business?
You know what? I would tell you every time, if I don't take at least a week off in a quarter, it's like my battery recharges, right?
Yeah.
So I come back re-energized, refocused. So if you really want to grow your practice, take more time off. I'm telling you guys. I mean, one of the things that took when I started to do into more political life, and I was out of the office 2 or 3 days a month and, just doing politics stuff at a fairly young stage, my practice grew. It taught me how to do that. Right. So sometimes the more time you take off, the busier your practice gets, the more people want to be there. Right.
I love it. Here's the interesting, I love this conversation. I get just as much out of these, probably more than everyone else.
Always. I love it.
I hadn't taken a week. I took a week off just a couple of weeks ago, but I hadn't taken a week off in a year.
Oh, Ed.
I know. And here's the thing is, like, I promote the laptop lifestyle. So it's
Sure.
like, I should be able to take time off whenever I want. Right. And I can, but the reality is, it's like everyone can reach me at 24 hours a day. Like,
yeah.
That's the way technology is today. So here's what I'm taking from this. And I think all of our listeners should really just pay attention to this too. I think it's really important that we all take that time in that space and just, shut down. Like, and I mean, really shut down, like no phones, no computers, no patients contacting us, remove yourself from your practice, possibly go somewhere if that's where you want to do, or staycation. I don't know. But I think it's so important. And I know that the doctors who are doing that are the ones, like you said, are thriving.
So that's something I read recently in a book called Peak Performance. It validates that. The science actually says in elite performers, not only athletes, but in the business and the research world, all of the people who are the peak performers, they have intense focus, but they also really, really, really step back and take a break. Right. So what's fascinating, they studied, these elite athletes, and they found that the ones that were really thriving were totally unplugging and taking like week to a month off of training, which is like unheard of. Right. But they were growing, their gains were massive, and they started to study it, and they're finding this is exactly what was happening in education and teaching, in, university level stuff, but in the business world as well. So it validates what, fortunately I kind of stumbled on because of an unfortunate accident. But the reality is, when I find I take a break and when I can, I try to change my surroundings as much as possible, right? Change up the scenery, go somewhere. It doesn't have to be Hawaii or something, but just, take a weekend away somewhere, and it just helps me reset. And I come back re-energized and refocused. Right. Who hasn't been in practice where they start to be a little bit flat? They're not focusing enough on their client. They're not caring enough. They're not grateful. When you're not grateful anymore, you got to take a break. Okay. That's the reality. And, so when I come back from a holiday, I'm like, man, I'm full of just gratitude. Right. So I can give more. I can serve more.
I love that.
And that vibration, I attract more because of that. Right.
I think I'm just pulling from what you're saying too. And it's so true, because I would experience that in practice. When you go from the place of gratitude and joy and fun and that butterfly feeling when you walk into your practice and it's a busy afternoon, to it's like resentment and like, I want to go home and when's dinner? And like, when that shifts, that's when you have to take that time. So I love this. It really does I love that word, gratitude. You should be grateful for the fact that people are walking in your doors. So,
and frankly, I personally build gratitude in my everyday work. Every day I wake up and I meditate, and then I do a bit of exercise, and I've got my routine, right? But part of that routine is always getting into gratitude, and writing down 5 things that I'm grateful for, putting it in my head. One of the coolest practices we do with my kids is I make sure that they write down 3 things that they're grateful for every day before the dinner table, right? They just have to do it. They've been doing it since they've been like 2, right? So it's habit.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can't be angry, frustrated, stressed out, and grateful at the same time.
No, that I was just going to say that it's impossible to be in that state of, you know, like anger or whatever that is, or a sadness when you're in a state of gratitude. Like it's impossible. They're diametrically opposed, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah. Okay. So I love this conversation and where it's going. And I feel like it's kind of leading to this. And that's like something that's really cool that you and Dr. Tom are working on. And this is so I'm going to say it, blueprint mastery.
Blueprint to mastery.
Blueprint to mastery.
Yeah.
Mess up people's stuff. So tell us a little bit about that. And I feel like that's kind of where this discussion is going to.
Sure. I mean, so blueprint to mastery. So I'm, again, one of the coaches with Full Circle Coaching and Consulting, and we have a program going on October 5th and 6th in Toronto at the 4 Point Sheraton. And what it is literally a blueprint to your life, because so many people are just living their life without a real direction or target. So the game plan is to literally create, and I'm not lying, you're going to get like drafting papers, blueprint, massive blueprint. And there's all sorts of pieces there that we're going to work through. So this is a working weekend. It's not the Frazer and Tom show. And, you know, we're not sitting up there just yapping. We're actually making people work. Okay. So it's amazing because we're going to work through people's vision. We're going to look at things like their values. We're going to start to explore where their authentic abilities are. We're going to create a bit of a success roadmap. So what does success mean? You know, what does that look like for, you know, your version of success is different than mine, Ed. It just has to be, right? Because we're driven by different things. So what we want to do is help people tap that, figure out what that is, because you can't hit a target you can't see, right? So if you can actually start to see it and write it out and create it, you can actually start to create a blueprint to live your life. So how do you hit your targets? How do you hit your goals? Well, first of all, you got to know what they really are. And you got to know that they're value driven, okay? And they're meaningful. And they're going to start to move you towards that piece that we talked about, that soul driven life, right? That masterful, legacy driven life of purpose. And if you can start to define that and start and write it out and start to create, we're going to go through the exercises to make that happen and give you literally the roadmap and the action steps and all of this piece that you're going to be able to implement out of this weekend to help drive your life forward, which is going to help you, again, get into a state of higher vision, clarity, confidence, certainty, less fear, right? And your vibrational energy and your gratitude is going to expand. So what's going to happen? Your trajectory is going to completely change. So we always say, like, any kind of a workshop like this is like 6 months of one-on-one coaching.
Wow.
Okay? So it's a very cool experience. Certainly I'd invite people to check out the website. I think we post a link, right, Ed?
Yeah, so TCP listeners, actually, you can head to the website that we have, so to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. We'll have a webpage dedicated to our discussion also with Dr. Frazer Smith, but we also will have the links to go check out the event in October. We have a discount code, okay? And so the discount code is, I have to look at it on Facebook.
It's gift from Ed.
Gift from Ed. It's gift from Ed. So if you're actually watching this right now, you'll see in the comments, I dropped a comment in there already, and you'll see it in the comments and also with the discount code. If you're, again, a listener, you can head over to the website. So again, that's TCP, or so it's thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. Or if you're on your mobile, open up the show notes right now. You can access that gift right from your mobile and your show notes. So I wrote a couple things down here too about, I'm just going to pull from the discussion and what we're talking about here. Number one is success and defining success. And I think a lot of doctors define their success, and probably like I did, and it was always in numbers and values of things like how many patients I saw and how much money I made, and how you know, there were all these numbers. And that really didn't. And I think at one point, maybe that was relevant to me. Even in my business today, like, I mean, there's a certain, what I defined as success a year ago is not what I define as success today. Do you find that's the same thing with a lot of doctors that are coming to you that are just going, look, I've been there, I've done the big high volume practice, or and now I just really need to clarify, like, what is it to me?
Yeah, we get a lot of docs are doing that, right? We've got a lot of docs who want to grow, right? Yeah. And we try to make them link the connection to, you want to, I'll backtrack it for a sec, because I agree. I mean, this is a huge learning for me in my journey through chiropractic, right? Because I saw so many doctors burning out, trying to hit that elusive goal number, right? And here's what my experience of that was, right? Well, you're no good as a chiropractor unless you're seeing 300 people a week. Okay, all right. So they hit 300 a week, and they go, well, this isn't so hot, right? So it must be like, maybe the goal is 400, right? So they drive it up and they go to 400, right? I don't know if I'm not feeling successful yet. So they go bigger. The next thing you know, their wife leaves them, their kids don't talk to them, and their life turns into crap. Now, I'm not saying that happens for all of these docs, but it's amazing how often when we're chasing a number that isn't connected to a value and a purpose, right? Then it's empty. And that's what happens. You become empty when you chase a goal that isn't linked to your values. And so I've seen the burnout. I've seen that happen. I certainly have seen lots of guys come to me and gals come to me when they're like, whoa, kind of like I was, right? What do I do next? Right? I'm not sure that just bumping the practice is what I really want. Maybe the legacy is to develop young docs. Maybe it's something different. So we explore that with them, right? And we figure out what the next level, what the next chapter looks like. And that just takes a lot of, there's exercises to do to go through that. Some of it is some long discussions. There's a lot of different mechanisms to make that happen. But one thing I want to share is part of the finance picture is a big deal for people, right? But just like in chiropractic, we link it to numbers. A lot of people don't know when enough is enough money, right? When's enough? How do you know? Yeah. Right. And the problem with money is it if it's empty, if it's not connected to anything, then there's never enough. Right. Because it's that itch that you can't scratch. It's the void that you can never fill. Right. There's never enough of it. So one of the things that we really work on with people is to we call it the business life intention sheet. So create intention into your life. If you want to create the dream life, what does that cost? What does that look like? Right. So let's connect the dots to something that really matters. What are the high value things in your life that you want to achieve? What does that cost? And let's create the blueprint. What's the roadmap to achieving that? How much is it? A lot of times it's surprising how many docs are already there. They just didn't know it.
They just need someone to point it out for them.
Well, yeah. And then you're like, what the hell are you working so hard for then?
I love it.
Right.
So, I mean, really the blueprint and the event is all about helping people go from this place of wandering generality to meaningful specific, to having something they're working towards.
Exactly. You know what? It's about getting laser specific, but through your own lens, right? Your own soul-driven lens. So what's innately right for you, what's authentic for you is different for everybody else. So if you can actually start to carve that out and clarify what that looks like, then you can actually create a roadmap to how to achieve that.
Love it. Perfect. And so this is the portion in the show, Doc, where I'm going to put you in the cheesy TCP time machine. You ready for
Bring it on.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to put you into the TCP time machine. We're going to send you back to a younger version of yourself right after you have come out of chiropractic college. You have all the life experience, all the knowledge that you have today. What would you say to that younger self?
Oh my goodness. I got a lot to say, but the really simple thing is don't do it all yourself. Okay. So first of all, get a coach. And that's not just because I am a coach. I coached for years before I got a coach, and that helped me accelerate way faster than I could have done on my own. Okay. So get a coach, a mentor, a guide, someone, a mentor group. I don't care who it is. Bounce off the ideas, help them motivate you, get them inspired. The next thing is, don't do the crap you're not good at. Stop doing it. Right? We're doing so much stuff that we suck at or we hate doing. Stop doing it. I remember for years, I was like, doing my own my books, right? My finances, right? Yeah. And it was all screwed up and wrong. And I was like hating it. And I finally was like, I hired a bookkeeper. That was like the best thing I ever did. It was also the stupidest thing I ever did, was to do it for so long by myself, right? But it's like, okay, I need to do marketing. Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to talk to people like Ed, who knows how to do this stuff. And I don't have to pull my hair out. I've already done that, right? Trying to do it myself. Find the people who are experts, pay them. They know what they're doing, and they're going to accelerate you way faster. And then guess what? You get to focus on what you love to do, right? And what you're good at doing. And when you get to focus on what you love to do and what you're good at doing, guess what? You're going to be more successful. You're going to be happier, and you're going to prosper. So that's my big thing. Find some coaching, mentoring, and find the people that you can surround yourself that are going to help you do the things that you really either don't want to do or don't have the skills, talents, and abilities.
Focus on your superpower.
Yeah. Henry Ford, one of my favorite things from Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talked about Henry Ford trial, right? And he was suing the paper for slander, and they're trying to prove him as ignorant. And what he said was, why would I have to know all of this stuff when I can pay someone to tell me what I need to know? Right? And it's like, brilliant. Henry Ford was a brilliant man.
Yeah, he's pretty smart, dude.
And part of the smartness is he delegated the stuff that he didn't know, and he recruited good people, right? To help him. And we can all do that if we want to do Facebook marketing, if we want to do podcasts, if we want to do social, like if we want to build this stuff, find the experts.
Absolutely. I totally, yeah, I'm hearing it. I'm hearing you. There's a few things that I don't enjoy doing. Spend about 3-4 hours doing. Just even yesterday, I'm like, why am I doing this again? Because this is like a $7 an hour task, or, well, not 7, but like $15 an hour task. But I probably could find someone who's a lot better at it. That really that's their superpower.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. There's a great book on just some of that. Is called The Big Leap.
Oh yeah.
Big Leap, right? I think it's Gay Hendricks. I can't remember the author, but it's a great book, and it talks about getting into your zone of genius, because that's where the magic happens, right? So if you can get, there's more things rather than all the things that we need to do, which is what a lot of people think in terms of, oh, I need to do this, I should do that, I've got to do more of that. No, get your stop doing list and make it bigger than your should do list, right? Your should is all, it's externally motivated. It's not value driven. It's what we should look at. There we go, is what we should stop doing.
Right.
We'll be far more successful if we can give away things and stop doing things than add more things onto our plate.
That's a great advice. I love it. So I have actually just one last question for you. So we always like to wrap up the show just by asking one final question. And what I'd like to do is, and I mean, you've dropped so many different resources already, books, the resource for the event. And again, I want docs to make sure they go click on that and check it out. And
that's a 30% discount.
30% discount if you use the code. Don't worry, just go to the show notes or head over to the chiropracticphilanthropist.com. You'll find the page there. Okay, so here's what I'd like to know. What is an invaluable resource that you think all doctors should go out and get right now? Could be a book, could be something you're listening to, could be someone that you know or are following.
Okay. So first of all, I would say the biggest, most important tool that I have is Audible. Just audiobooks. Okay. I love to read and learn. And, years ago in practice, when just busy life and kids, I might get through one book if I read through it in 3 or 4 months. Like, it was crazy. Audible, I read 3 books a month. So you want to expand your knowledge and grow yourself, start reading, guys, and use Audible. Do it when you're driving, do it when you're mowing the lawn, do it when you're running. This is an indispensable tool. Okay. And it's out there for everybody. So that's my number one, without question.
Beautiful.
Can I have a number 2?
Sure, absolutely. Drop it.
If it's a tool,
Do it.
if it's a tool, start meditating.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody, if you can start meditating, you start to ground yourself for what really matters. Create a purpose statement for yourself, get grounded in that before you start the day, so that you start the day full. And so when you're starting full, nobody else is going to be able to add stuff to you. They're not going to add their garbage to you to throw you off, to distract you from your mission and your purpose in life. So start meditating, learn how to do it. It's not that hard. So my next thing would be an Insight Timer app. The Insight Timer is a meditation app.
Oh, okay. And so that helps you meditate.
It can teach you how to meditate. It can also have a whole bunch of guided meditations, or you can just set timers and things like that.
Okay. I was going to say, because that's the biggest thing I get is like, a lot of people will say, well, I don't know how to meditate.
Exactly.
I'm like, well, that's just an excuse.
Exactly. So Insight Timer, it's on the App Store. You can download it easily. It's free. It's crazy.
I use Muse, if you've ever heard of Muse.
Aha! Well, I would have said Muse too, Ed, but I'm a Muse junkie.
We'll have to go toe to toe then. See how many birds you get. I suck at it, but my 8-year-old son will beat me at. Here's the crazy thing is that we have to make meditation competitive. I love it, but we have to gamify it. But I mean, I honestly though, by doing that, it's so brilliant. And this is maybe something that a lot of people can pick up from the discussion today is, look, if you don't have targets and goals, like what you are going to be learning at this event in Toronto, it's in Toronto, right?
Yep.
Yeah. In Toronto. If you don't have those meaningful, specific targets and goals, then you have no way of gamifying life. And the reason why things like that meditation app is working is because it gamifies, it gives targets, it gives goals, it gives a reason to do it and get better at it. So if you are just wandering like that wandering generality, then that's why you're not getting the results and outcomes in your life. At least that's my experience. You got to gamify things.
You know what? I'm with you there, because it's that competitive spirit we all have, right? Yeah. So I love the Muse. The Muse is cool. The Blueprint to Mastery. I mean, guys, if you're looking for more clarity on your vision, your purpose, your legacy, where you're going for the next 10 years, this is the workshop. I mean, it will change your life. I promise you that. And it's something, it's not all about systems and procedures in your office. It's none about that. Okay. I mean, we do that stuff too in our coaching, but that's not what this is about. This is about the mental mastery, about where you're going, having a vision, having a target, and then you can figure out how to gamify it all. I have the goals, the targets, the purposes. How do you put the action plan in place? Those are the next layers that go in there. But yeah, check it out.
Cool. So head over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com. Again, we'll have a webpage dedicated to our discussion with Dr. Frazer Smith today. Doc, I want to thank you for being on TCP today and the podcast. And all the viewers, thanks for tuning in. Everyone who's listening, thanks for tuning in as well. And thanks for giving back today.
Hey, Ed, thank you. Dr. Ed, thanks so much for having me. It's been my absolute privilege and honor to reach out and share what I've got, my message to your audience. So thank you.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.